Hello, and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland. I'm Peggy Zone Fisher, and I'm President and CEO of the Diversity Center of Northeast Ohio and a proud City Club member. Think for a moment about the people who have made a difference in your life. The ones who you looked up to when you were younger, the ones you turn to for advice today in your professional life. And I bet most of us can immediately remember that person who always answered the phone, who always asked the right question, who listened, and who helped us find our better selves. Mentorship is a powerful thing. Our lives are often a testament to that, but it's more than you think. A 2013 study by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and MDRC found that at-risk youth who received 13 months of mentoring got better grades, found more positive acceptance with peers, and were more likely to feel generally positive about their lives. Not really a surprise, I guess, but it's nice to know that science backs up all of our experiences. With that in mind, we are so pleased to welcome to the City Club Susan L. Taylor. She is the former editor of Essence magazine, deeply involved in a range of issues from political support to progressive African-American women seeking office, housing in South Africa, and the Underground Railroad. Her big passion these days is in the National Cares mentoring movement. The movement is a call to action that Ms. Taylor founded in 2006 as Essence Cares. Today, the CARES mentoring movement is a massive campaign to recruit 1 million able adults to help secure our children who are in peril and losing ground. The goals of the CARE movement are to increase high school graduation rates around African American students, end the violence in Black communities, and the over-incarceration of young people. My husband Lee and I know Susan through our very close friend Yvonne Pointer, who is with us today. As many of you know, Yvonne is an extraordinary woman whose beautiful daughter, Gloria, was murdered on the way to school. Yvonne has become a mentor, a hero to many people throughout the world who have faced dark moments in their lives when they felt that there was no way up and no way out. Yvonne and Susan have worked together on many causes, and they both are extraordinary women, mentors, and heroes. And my personal hero, Yvonne, and frankly, many of you in this room today, too. So Susan L. Taylor will speak in a moment, but first we share with you a brief video about the CARES mentoring movement. So if you look here.
Okay, these are the facts.
One third of all Black children are living in poverty.
These are the facts.
These are the facts.
6.6% of all African-American births
are to mothers under the age of 18.
1 in 4 Latinas is a teen mother.
The infant mortality rate for Black babies is more than twice that of the national average and rising.
These are the facts.
Nearly half of all Black and Latino children drop out before graduating from high school.
Every day
in
America, more than 1,000 Black children are arrested.
1 in every 8 Black men aged 25 to 29.
25 to 29 is incarcerated.
Our young Latinos are over-incarcerated as well.
For young Black women aged 25 to 34.
HIV/AIDS is the leading cause of death.
The leading cause of death.
And the leading cause of death for our boys,
For our young Black men, it's homicide.
But these are also the facts. From the hundreds of rebellions that took place on slave ships, to the students who sat in Greensboro, and the students who walked out in Soweto, we have always fought back, always cared for our own, always resisted injustice. We are the people who refuse to die. Like then, what's important now is that we not retreat, not surrender our tradition of faith and that can-do spirit. We can create powerful lives and end the state of emergency among our young. This is the sole purpose for the National Cares Mentoring Movement, Throughout the nation, our dedicated CARES Circle leaders are hard at work. They're closing that huge gap between the relatively few black mentors and the many impoverished black children in need of our encouragement. We're working on behalf of all children who are poor and struggling. The National CARES Mentoring Movement, founded as Essence Cares, recruits caring adults to serve as role models, tutors, reading buddies, guides, friends, and deploys them to schools, mentoring organizations, and to the academic enrichment programs CARES is building with our partners. Disproportionate numbers of black children are on waiting lists, and they're hoping that a caring adult will soon show up. And there's a critical need for the wisdom and strength of our beautiful black men. The children need you so. All we're asking is this, that you give 1 hour a week to help save a life and secure a child.
You can mentor.
You can mentor one of the 2.4 million children
2.4
million.
Almost 2.5 million children
who has a parent in prison.
You can get five
friends
5 friends to register.
to register and vote.
Failing schools, the carnage in our communities, celebration of thug life, the over-incarceration and relentless demonization of black males, the demeaning of black women. No, not on our watch.
You can demand your church.
You can demand your church.
You can demand your church be open for children
after school and on Saturdays.
In order to teach our kids an accurate account of their history,
Our faith communities can offer the support our children
are longing for.
Reading, math, science, technology, high expectations, and love. With our partners, these are the group mentoring supports National CARES is bringing to challenged schools. Help grow and sustain this movement by going online and making a donation. No amount is too small. Connect with your local CARES Mentor Recruitment Circle. We've lived through harder and harsher times than these. Like then, the most revolutionary thing we can do right now is to love one another. Become a mentor. Help to secure the most vulnerable among us, our children, our beloved children.
so I'm in.
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 Are you?
I thank you. This is such a joy. Can you hear me? Well, I don't speak loudly, so I asked for a handheld mic so I wouldn't have to shout. So happy to see you here, this powerful and wonderful gathering, and there's so many people whose names I want to call, so many people who have welcomed me so warmly to Cleveland over the years. But I don't think I'm more happy to see anyone than I am always to see you, Yvonne Pointer, who is an Essence Award winner because of her pain and activism. And we have to know that there is no pain that we can't turn into activism, and sometimes that's what it takes. That's what it takes. We don't want to lose any more of our children. We don't need any more wake-up calls to know that the village is on fire. And what is needed is our love, our commitment, our passion, and we need a process. We need a process that you, Tim, I know everybody in the room knows Tim Roberts, who has an organization. I don't know if Brick is still alive, but they're still alive because now he has a school that is preparing young people to go off to HBCU colleges, historically black colleges and universities. And some years ago, I'm looking at a photograph, and college student, now please stand up and let people see you, Morehouse College. He was a high school student, and in that photograph with me, and they are the little ones that Tim Roberts is grooming for school. Please tell my friend George Frazier that I called his name, and we have his team here, certainly, and they're here representing him, and I'm happy to say that. Thank you all so much for being with us. Cleveland Cares. Cleveland Cares. The National CARES Mentoring Movement that you just learned about. Cleveland Cares is one of 58 gatherings around the country, circles we call them, affiliates, with a simple job that is so critical. What we're trying to do is recruit mentors for vulnerable young. When the call goes out for mentors, it's white women who are the first respondents. and then white men, and then black women and black men last. And we know it's not because black people don't care. It's because before the National Cares Mentoring Movement, there was no catchment. There was no infrastructure within our communities to say, we need you. And that's why we exist. It was founded, as you heard, as Essence Cares right after Katrina. I said to the Essence family, we cannot go back into New Orleans and have a good old party. We have to have a party with a purpose. And there were hundreds of thousands of people from all over the country gathered there. And I asked them if they would go back to their respective cities and get involved. Put your hand on the shoulder of a vulnerable child. Go to Big Brothers, Big Sisters, the Boys and Girls Clubs, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, detention centers, reentry programs, wherever we see our children losing ground. When I learned that 80% of black fourth graders were reading below grade level, I was still the chief editor of Essence. That's when I decided I was going to make my exit. I didn't believe the statistic. I didn't believe that 80% of black fourth graders could be reading below grade level and that it wasn't front page news. Today, it's 86%. And African American youngsters in the fourth grade have fallen below Latinos for whom English is a second language. And we're not deficient in any way. And I want to say this, and Peggy, you know this, as a person who stands strongly for diversity and is trying to open people's hearts and minds to the reality of what some people, some groups in this nation have struggled through. Latinos, I grew up in El Barrio, that's what we call it in Harlem, Spanish Harlem. And you know, Latinos, certainly so many are impoverished, but they didn't lose their names and their foodways and their countries of origin and their religion and their families, as we did. African Americans don't talk about this. And some of my sisters and brothers are going, oh no, is she gonna go there? Oh yeah. Because we have to know the truth of our history and what we have lost so that we can what? Knit ourselves back together again. You know what I love about life is that anything is possible. That life is going to knock us down. There's no one in this room, there's no one who you saw in the video, all famous people, you know those folks. Every one of them, including our president and first lady and Bill Clinton, and we can go back to President Bush's, to both of them. The president's Bush is. You know, everyone struggles. That's life. Nobody gets to walk the face of this earth without being challenged. Life's gonna knock you down. Sometimes you bruise your knee, you bump your head, and if you don't give up, you pick yourself up and you keep going. And what we have to do as a society is do something very different. Something, Peggy, that I heard you speak about today when you spoke about your father, who was on the west side, right? And that's where all the white folks lived back then, and the black folks were on the east side, and he was the only politician who said he was going to stand for Louis Stokes becoming the first black mayor of this city. And the family of how many children? 9 children. They took the heat. They killed the dog, the racists did, wrote on the side of their home, nigger lover, you know? But her father gathered those children up and he said to them, we're going to stand for what is right. We're not going to shrink back because of fear. We're going to stand for what is right. We don't have to make that sacrifice. We don't have to make the sacrifices that Martin Luther King Jr. made, and I found out today that Robert Kennedy spoke here the day after Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. We don't have to give up what Martin Luther King Jr. gave up. We don't have to be Mary McLeod Bethune's. Mary McLeod Bethune, who left her South Carolina home with her little boy Albert and moved down to Daytona Beach, Florida, because she wanted to start a school for little black girls in 1901, 1902. Nobody was even thinking about educating black girls in 1901, 1902. But every one of us is born with an assignment. You have an assignment. And when you're on point and on assignment, everything you need opens up. The Holy Spirit opens the way. But if you think you were just sent here to struggle, get up every day, try to look as cute as you can look, try to put on your suit, your tie, shave, get on the road, go to work, and bring home that paycheck and have a good family and not serve, you're going to suffer. It's serve or suffer.
And you can sit in the synagogue, you can sit in the sanctuary, you can sit in any faith institution all day long and never really learn how to honor yourself or who you are. You're more than you seem. We are human and divine. And we're sent here to understand our divinity. We understand our humanness. We know that everything, every one of us in here, what are we? Dust. Dust. I just waved goodbye to my good friend Ruby D yesterday. Last Saturday, I was in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, at the services for Maya Angelou. Those of you who logged on to or called in, I don't know if any of you did, I'm sure I'm going to introduce Cleveland Cares in a moment. But I want to tell you, Maya Angelou, her last public offering was through CARES, on the telephone with hundreds of our mentors from around the country. And she chased me down 2 days later to say, oh, Susan, I don't think my presentation went well. I said, you're apologizing? People just needed to hear you breathe. But she was a perfectionist. And you know what? The last thing she said to me was, she wrote the pledge. She wrote the pledge for the National CARES Mentoring Movement. And I didn't ask her to. I was having dinner with her in Atlanta, and I said to her, I'm going to ask my husband and Michael Eric Dyson to write the pledge. And she said, oh, no, darling, I'm writing the pledge. And I want to tell you, that next Monday before I could get to work, she was on the phone. She had called my office. Tell Susan I have my yellow pad, and I have my pen in hand, and I've begun. And she wrote that amazing pledge. The last thing she said to me, just 7 days before she made her transition, use me, Susan. Use me, because if you don't use me, I'm useless. And so, yes, I want to say to Cleveland Cares, thank you for being available to us. Thank you for standing up for our children. Could you stand and let people see you? This is Dr. Phyllis Dukes Hobson. There she is in that beautiful color, and her beautiful husband, Jerry Hobson. Jerry. And Richard Ashbury. Richard, please. And Regina Splicer. God bless you. Hope I haven't missed anybody. I haven't. Have I? No. The others who are sitting at the table, we're recruiting you, because you're at the CARES table. We've already announced it. Good. And let me just share what it is that we're asking. What we're asking of them, what we're asking of you. Okay, I've got to watch that clock, because I'm not going over. Here's what they're doing. They have partners. Those partners may be Big Brothers, Big Sisters. It could be the Boys and Girls Clubs. A reentry program. 2 million people are going to exit prisons and detention centers this year. If you have a felony charge, you know it's going to be very, very difficult to get a job. They need mentoring. They need encouraging. They need us not to be afraid of them. We believe in group mentoring. This is what I love about the 100s, and both of the men who I introduced belong to the 100 Black Men of America. And I also see my hero here, Sam Titmore. You just came in. Sam, please stand and let people see you, a broadcaster who's my good, good friend, and who from the very beginning of this movement with Cleveland Cares was right there at the center. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sam. So what we're doing is recruiting you to mentor. An hour a week, that's all we're asking. An hour a week of your time to save a life and advance it. Not asking for your money, not asking all of you for your money, but asking some of you, like Terry Bradford Eason at the Cleveland, where are you, Terry? At the Cleveland Foundation. Where's Terry? He's afraid to raise your hand. There you are, right? So we're asking those of you who have resources and access to resources to help Cleveland Cares. Just like KeyBank, oh, thank you so much, just stood up for the National CARES Mentoring Movement. We're doing this work in 58 markets. And so what we're doing is sending mentors wherever our children are losing ground. Into schools to be reading buddies and math coaches, and into detention centers to motivate people to keep going, to keep them together in wellness mentoring circles, which we're going to be building. I do this work, and you know I'm tired. 37 years at Essence. That's how long I was there. 37 years is a long time. A lot of giving, a lot of work, and I loved every moment of it. And people ask me, why are you not there now? Because sometimes we elders don't know when to hand the reins to the young'uns. It's time for the young'uns to take over and move that. Essence Magazine doesn't need me, but my community does. I'm a bridge. I'm a bridge between the President of the United States, between the White House, between congressional leaders, between folks like you and people who are on the ground who are struggling and can't speak for themselves. I'm glad I grew up in Harlem. I'm glad my family didn't have everything. I'm glad I know what struggle looks like. I mean, I don't know what poverty looks like or feels like. Let me say I know what it looks like because I travel the world. But I don't know what it feels like. And I hope it never visits me. And it shouldn't have to visit any of us to know what we have to do. We are made in the image and likeness of the love that created us. What does that mean? That means that you don't succumb to I was depressed 3 weeks ago. Let me tell you, I didn't want to get out of bed. I haven't had one of those bouts in a long time. And that's why when you and Margot let me know about the donation today, I was like, oh, yes. We've gotten great donations, but I don't want to take the time to talk about that. Sometimes they end before the programs end. And we don't want to disappoint the children. The children always say, we know you're not coming back, because funding ends and people don't come back. We have to do this work if we love our nation. You love America? If you love the United States of America, hold America to a higher standard. It is irrational that in the wealthiest country in the world we have 30 million people who go to sleep hungry every night. Growing numbers of people who are hungry around the corner from where they're throwing away food. It's irrational that in the wealthiest country in the world we have, 4 million people who are homeless. Many more than that. Many, many more than that. People who are looking for jobs who can't find work. And it goes on. We know we have corporations that are firing people and making folks who still have jobs work, ever more fully, broadly, deeply, do more than you were paid to do. Because you're afraid of losing your job, so you're going to do it. I know corporate leaders don't want me to go there, but that's the truth. What we forget is that there's enough. There's enough on this little rock that we call Earth that's floating through space for there to not be hunger, for there to not be homelessness, for there to be mental health support for people who've lost their way. Most of the people who are incarcerated because they're addicted. Every day I raise my hand, thank God I'm not addicted to anything. I used to smoke cigarettes. That was a hard addiction to break. As a young woman, I just said, I'm not doing that. It's snowing. Am I crazy? Going outside to get a pack of cigarettes? I got to get rid of this habit. So I want to say in my last 10 minutes something to you. Because you're not going to give what you don't have. You can't give from an empty cup. You can't give when you forget who you are. I've written 4 books about them, and they have one out there today. 4 books about the life force that's within us, that is always available to us. I speak about it. I know this. I've written about it. And guess what? I forgot. So much of life is remembering. Remembering who you are. That you just didn't pop out of your mother's womb and be sent along to struggle on your own. Everything you need to live your life fully and freely is available to you. But you have to watch your mind and you have to mind your mouth. I forgot that. I was thinking about, oh my goodness, I've got all these employees to pay and the funding is ending and where's the money going to come from? Oh, you got to get up. You have to have a plan. You have to be fit, focused, organized, disciplined, and armed with a plan of action to execute what it is you're going after. So I hear people say, this is what I want. Oh, I want to be married. What's your plan? Take your hand off your hips, stop being evil, put a smile on your face, learn how to treat people well, and guess what? Your divine right partner's waiting for you. Oh, you want to be married, but you have 3 girlfriends. Well, nobody wants to marry you when you can't be faithful. You want to move ahead in your organization. You want to be a VP or an executive VP. You may have to go back to school. You need new training. I'm not going to be the office dinosaur in my organization, and I'm learning all the computer skills that I need in order to keep this movement moving forward before I hand those reins to another youngin'. So I'm saying to you every day, you have to begin by giving yourself to yourself before you give yourself away. This nation is not going to heal. We're not going to heal the divide. We're not going to be the America, the beautiful that we sing about and we pledge about. We're not going to be that until we step up. Until we step up, step out of our fear, and say, I can be the guardian of my own life. That doesn't mean that every day I'm going to be like yippee-doo and very, very happy. What I forgot and what I remember now, in fact, it's the first chapter in the book that's sitting out there. It's, it's what a Sufi mystic said. He said that when pain comes, ask a question. What have you come to teach me? That's what I forgot. Everything that happens in our lives happens for a reason. That little slap upside the head that I needed 3 weeks ago got me up on the telephone raising money. It's coming in, it's flowing in. I didn't even ask for this today, and here it comes. You see? Because we're more than we've seen. We're human and divine. What you speak into a universe that what? Gives you back what you spoke into it, concretized. I'm too fat, I'm too old, I can't do this, I can't do that. That's what you're speaking, that's what it'll be. I'm a divine original. I have everything that I need. My belly may be hanging over my pants, but it's not going to be this come fall because I'm getting up like Susan did this morning at 68 years old. This is not what I want to be doing at 68. But if you all were anywhere near the hotel I stayed in, you would have seen me out there this morning in my sneakers and my little thing answering all my phone calls. Walking, walking, walking. Put on your sneakers and walk. You can't, if you feel depressed, you know what you need? Serotonin. You can also get a prescription for it. That's not good for you. Your brain creates it, your pituitary glands, forgive me, create it automatically. All you have to do is what? It's cardiovascular stimulation that creates serotonin. You're fully and beautifully and exquisitely made. Everything you need, you have within you. What we have to do is turn off the cacophony of the world. Turn off the cell phones. Shut down the computer. You know, no more tweeting and Facebook, and give yourself a break every day. Time to listen in so you can hear what that still small voice within you is trying to say. What was I created to do? That's the question you have to ask. Am I on my path? Am I where Spirit wants me to be? Am I doing what God created me to do? Yvonne, I'm so sorry. Gloria's gone. It turned you into an activist. The woman who we honored with you, Frances Davis, lost 3 of her children. Gun violence in Brooklyn. She said, you know what? Every day my heart hurts. That's what she said. But I know why the Holy Spirit took my 3 sons. Before I lost them, it was all about me and them. Now, wherever 2 are gathered, I'm trying to encourage them to not pick up guns, to put down the knives, to go to school, stay in school. Our children need us. In the wealthiest country in the world, where white men rule, the highest rate of suicide is among young boys, white boys. We need to ask ourselves, why are young white males killing themselves? That should be front page news. Something is very wrong in our nation and in our households. And we can cure those ills. Native Americans, high rate of suicide. The spike is among Latinas. It used to be a joke that black people didn't kill themselves. The older ones like me, remember, you can't jump out of a basement. That's what we used to say. Black people don't kill themselves. And now we are. Black men and women, boys and girls are killing themselves. So I'm saying to you, I want my words, let's walk out of this door differently than we entered. Not fearing, not thinking that we're not enough, not believing that we're to anything, not smart enough, not pretty enough, not handsome enough, not tall enough, to this, to that. We're always negating ourselves. A little prescription I want to give you. Get up every morning and put a smile on your face and say thank you. Thank you. No matter what's going on in your life. Because guess what? Gratitude makes everything that you have more than enough. Gratitude makes everything you have more than enough. And then it opens the way for more good stuff to come to you. The universe is not giving you what you can't receive. And remember, whatever you focus on is what you amplify. So if you focus on what you don't have and everything that's wrong in your life, you're amplifying that, and that's what creates depression. There's no problem that we read about in the daily news, that we see on the nightly news, that we have in our own personal lives. There's no social problem, there's no world problem that we can't solve. We don't have to go to war. We don't have to have war. We don't have to have hunger. We don't have to have homelessness. We really don't have to have unemployment. We don't have to have it. But we have to stand for something. If you're just sitting in the sanctuary, amen, he's a mighty God, praise God, but your sanctuary is not doing anything? You know, as Dr. Phyllis told me, her church is activists, and they're stepping out there, and they're really looking at young people and how they can help them. And maybe they're going to create a reentry program. Oh, praise God. For children who are coming out of incarceration. So I'm saying get up, smile on the face. Thank you. What's my plan for the day? The plan is not to have a bagel and 3 cups of coffee. That's not breakfast. You have to treat your body well. You need protein. And I'd say you want to start every day with a protein shake. And hemp seed is a pure form of protein. Get your little blender, hemp seed, right? A little maybe oatmeal you want to put in there, some raw oatmeal, but it's 3 helpings of fruit. 3 hands full of fruit. I like blackberries, blueberries, raspberries. Half a banana, a little bit of a banana. Banana, you need potassium, but bananas have a lot of sugar. They have a lot of sugar. And sugar is the belly food. I love dessert, but you can't have it every day unless you're going to walk. And most of us will be pre-diabetic because everything has sugar in it. Because what has happened is they're trying to, what, appeal to your palate. Let me continue. So you're making your protein drink in the morning. You know what's in there, your fruit, because you're supposed to have 7 servings a day. Who's having 7 servings of fruit? Nobody. So please, you eat an apple maybe when you need a break. So what you do is you put those 3 helpings of fruit, half an apple, and your banana, and some almond milk, and a little bit of water. That's breakfast. You have everything you really need. You have the nutrients probably for the day. Take your vitamins with that if you're a vitamin taker, and put on your sneakers and go walk. Get up 45 minutes before you have to get engaged in the day. Give yourself to yourself before you give yourself away. If you have little ones at home and you can't get out to walk, you can do this at home, right in front of the TV while you can read while you're doing that. Maybe you're reading, maybe you're learning a new language, and you have your tapes on, listening to the morning news, or walking around your home. Cardiovascular stimulation. Got to be able to move, okay? And then you're going to get in your bathtub or sit by the window and look at the delight of the morning. You know, we take for granted. I was whining and complaining the other day. I'm watching that clock, standing on the corner by where I live. And I'm like, you're whining and complaining about what? Something, I don't even remember what it was. And then a little teenager walked by, learning how to walk, because I live by the United House for the Blind, learning how to walk with a cane, a teenager. So we take sight for granted. We take mobility for granted. It's a gift to be able to think and breathe and move and dream a world and then roll up your sleeves and create it. Thank you. Put gratitude in your heart. Get in that bathtub, sit by the window. No music, no TV, just you listening into that still small voice that is trying to encourage you and tell you what the next step is. Trying, it really is. But you have to what? Shut out the cacophony of the world and be available to listen. Come out of that bath or away from the window, go to the mirror, get yourself groomed if you're shaving or fixing your hair. And what do you say? Thank you. You look in the mirror and just say, I love you. I love you. Look at you with your fine self. Not, look at your skin, look at your hair. You let yourself go. You're fat, you're ugly, your hair. Da, da, da. We're always picking ourselves apart. Fire the judge. Fire the judge. And say, I just love you with your fine self. Because nobody else is probably going to tell you that today. I'm loving you. And your love is the love you're hungering for. Anybody else's love is the icing on the cake. That's the cherry on top of the icing. But it's your love that is the essential love. We think it's other people's love and affirmation. What people feel about you is none of your business. There's nothing you can do to make everybody love you, like you, affirm you. That you're affirming you. That you understand the gift that your life is. That's the most important thing. And then you're on your way to work. If you're driving to work and somebody cuts you off, or even before that, you have a little sweet thing at home. Hi, darling. Gotta go. The kids, not get out of the bed. You're going to miss the bus. No. Come on, darling. Time to get up. When you begin your day like that, that day is going to be a peaceful day. Keeping that consciousness that I'm not doing this alone. I'm more than I seem. The Holy Spirit's got my back. I don't have to worry. Everything I need is coming into my hands, but I have to be present. Kiss your baby goodbye, kiss those pumpkins goodbye, and, you get on the highway, somebody cuts you off, they're in a rush, glad I'm not, easing on to work. The crazy people, they're there waiting for you. They're at the school, they're at work, they're wherever you're going. But their craziness doesn't have to happen inside of you. Because you've put on what I call your spiritual armor, and now you're on your way. So I just say I thank you for giving me this time to share with you what is in my heart. I feel like I've rushed through this. I needed more time. I needed a longer lunch hour, but I'm certainly glad that I had this one. And this morning when I was walking through Cleveland, and I saw the pain all around me, people walking the streets, homelessness, hunger, just know that there's no place to run. There's no place to hide. that this is something, we're here on assignment. And ensuring our own well-being and happiness, that's our first assignment. Giving to others from the overflow is why God created us. I thank you so much for allowing me to be with you today.
Susan, thank you so much for that assignment, both of them. We appreciate it. Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we are enjoying a Friday forum with Susan L. Taylor, the founder of the National Cares Mentoring Movement and former editor-in-chief of Essence Magazine. I'm Dan Moulthrop, CEO of the City Club. It's a pleasure to have you all here. We encourage you now to get your questions ready for our speaker for the traditional City Club question and answer period. You're all invited to ask questions, but we ask that they only be brief and to the point. We welcome all of you here and those joining us through our primary media partner, 90.3 WCPN, 104.9 WCLV, and WVIZ PBS Idea Stream, or on one of the many other radio stations across the country that carry City Club programs. Television broadcasts of the City Club of Cleveland forums are made possible by Cleveland State University and PNC. Our live webcast is supported by the University of Akron. Next Friday, June 20th, we will welcome Gail McGovern, CEO of the American Red Cross. For more information about that program and any of our upcoming forums, or to make a reservation for any, please visit us online at cityclub.org. Today's program is part of the 2014 Diversity Thought Leadership Series sponsored by KeyBank. Joining us today at the head table are Karen White, Vice President of Community Relations, and Becky Talley, Senior Vice President of Investment Operations. Would you both please stand to be recognized? We thank you very much for your generous support. We welcome guests today at tables hosted by KeyBank and Medical Mutual. Thank you very much for your support. Today's program is the Samuel O. Friedlander Memorial Forum on Free Speech, made possible by the generosity of Dr. Friedlander's family and friends. Joining us at the head table are Nina Friedlander Gibbons and her husband, Jim Gibbons. Thank you very much for your support. We also want to recognize the Diversity Center and our many community partners with us here today, and thanks as well to A Cultural Exchange for joining us today as our bookseller, and to Susan L. Taylor for being available to sign copies of her book afterwards. We also welcome students today to our program. Joining us, student participation is made possible by a generous gift from the Pipeline Development Company. Joining us today are students from the historically black colleges and universities, Magic Johnson Bridgescape Academies, Shaw High School, Young Scholars Program from Ohio State University, and the City Club's own Youth Forum Council. Will all the students in the audience today please stand to be recognized? You guys look awesome, all of you, but these two in the front especially. Now it's time for the traditional City Club question and answer period. We welcome questions from everyone, as I said, including guests. Holding our microphone today is Marketing and Outreach Specialist Kirsten Pianka. Our first question, please.
This question is addressed to Susan Taylor. Your organization does a wonderful job with volunteers in its many-faceted program. And I'm just wondering, in today's economy, with young people and volunteers having to have two jobs in order to continue, is it difficult to find volunteers? And what are the opportunities for having the Domestic Peace Corps expanded to carry on some of the wonderful programs that you head?
Wow, thank you for that. I never thought of the Domestic Peace Corps. That is such a phenomenal idea. And thank you for that, because it is so very difficult to not just attract volunteers, because when we're out speaking about it, people are like, I'm going to do that. What's really difficult is for people to keep the commitment. But then you know what I say, Sarah? I ask people to look at what they do with their time. The average person is watching unbelievable amount of television. Over 30 hours of television a week. Many more hours over 30 hours a week. And we ask men, you can maybe watch one fewer basketball game or football game? and give that time to a young male who needs your time and attention. So even people who are working multiple jobs and who are in school still find a lot of time for social media. I read something yesterday that really frightened me, that the average student is really spending half of their work time on social media. Not studying, but texting and Facebooking and tweeting. And so there's a lot of, I won't call it wasted time, but usually those things don't bring a residual. Saving a life does. But I'm going to write down, would you all take that note for me so we remember Domestic Peace Corps? I'm definitely going to look into that. Very much AARP. I'm working with A. Barry Rand, the president, because retirees very often are available during the day. And so many of the critical needs that our children have can be met in school. And most people who are employed are working during the school hours. So we have in Chicago, we have 1,000. You know what we're doing too is group mentoring. Let me say that. We're building our own programs. And they're group mentoring programs. So we're trying to prove that 1,000 young people's lives can be changed by about 30 mentors and facilitators who are psychologists. Big assemblies with 1,000 kids in the auditorium, and then wellness mentoring circles. Each one of you could be a wellness mentoring circle. They're single gender, and all the guys are there together with adults who are psychologists, helping them to heal what's hurting them. Maybe another question will allow me to go into that a little deeper, because our children are suffering in ways that you can't even imagine. And I do, before I take my seat, want to tell you a couple of the things that we're learning about young people's lives. Thank you for that.
First of all, thank you for being here. I taught for 40 years in the Cleveland School District, and one of the concerns that constantly comes up is the preparation gap for our young children. And there's something that I can comfortably assume that all parents have in common, whether they're young or middle-aged, whatever, and that's that they know their ABCs, they know their numbers, they know first and last name, address, and these are the things that many young children don't know when they get into kindergarten. So my question is, what would you consider making that a part of your national campaign, is to share the importance with parents of the kinds of things that young children should know when they get to kindergarten so they don't end up so far behind?
Well, I'll tell you, Dr. Phyllis Hobson, Dukes Hobson, is an expert, and this is what she's teaching at Cuyahoga. She's teaching those young parents what they need to inculcate in their young, exactly what you said. But let's look at the reality, because you know what? We do a lot of finger pointing. This is what I find out there. Not that you did that. You certainly didn't. Harlan, the school I was going to speak about in Chicago, 1,000 students, we're in there working with them. Chicago is a killing field. It's a killing field. Those youngsters over the Christmas holiday, 11 murders in just 5 days. The first 3 months of this year, 115 people shot. Many of them died. When we went in to do some research, we asked the young people, what do you want most? I didn't even know what they meant when they said to be able to go out. What do you mean? We're afraid to go out. None of us anybody in here grew up? Did anybody in here grow up afraid to go out? No. It's a different world we live in. So the principal of the school gave a big gathering and wanted all the parents to come. 1,000 students, maybe 10 parents came. Where we're working in South Florida, 1,400 youngsters, most of them have been incarcerated. Another school, not contiguous, but next door, 300 girls, all pregnant, or they're already mothers. And Cleveland Cares was horrified last night when I said the youngest was 12 with 3 children, and nobody was arrested. This is where we are, building programs, group mentoring programs. So all 300 girls, we have you in assemblies and in wellness mentoring circles. Of the 1,400 young ones, no parents show up at the Whitten Rogers Alternative School. None. I was a parent. I wasn't always in my right mind. Let me say that. When you're trying to keep food on the table, a roof over your head, you have smaller children, there's a reason why parents don't come to meetings. There's no parent, whether that parent is drug addicted, whether that parent is, just not only chemically dependent, but that parent could be emotionally unwell. There's a lot of mental illness and stress, working multiple jobs. There's no parent who doesn't wish the best for his or her children. child. Our role is to do what a parent is not able to do. Somebody has to do it. I think first it's the parent, then it's the community. Let's say the faith community. It's the schools. It's the neighborhood. It's the community center. Our children are falling through all those things that should be safety nets, and that's why they're ending up in incarceration. Okay. And so, what we must do, you don't read anything about illiteracy. Have you seen anything about illiteracy? Do you see any commercials on television about illiteracy? It is it's the shame of the nation. It's a major problem. And parents who know, if you know, as Maya Angelou said, teach. You can't teach what you don't know. There are parents who can't even write their names because they themselves are illiterate. So what we're doing, my answer, is that in Detroit, what we're building, we're creating pilots that are replicable. I'm not doing this because I need a job. And I don't take a pay from the National Cares Mentoring Movement, and this is 7 days a week. But we are building pilots that we can replicate. We're building things that we can offer to Cleveland Cares that can be instituted here. I hope that they will pilot the reentry program with mentors, group mentoring them. So maybe we have a reentry program with 20 girls and 40 boys separate, and maybe we need 5 mentors, that's all. Group mentoring is the way forward. What we're doing in Detroit is we are taking young mothers. We're doing it in Detroit and in South Florida, and they're going to work together, our leaders, and we're creating a curriculum for the wellness mentoring circles for those young mothers and those fathers, because they're fathers who are teenagers too. And a lot of them are struggling to be good parents, but when you're a teenager and you have difficulty reading, Dr. Phyllis was telling me last night, they're coming to Cuyahoga Community College, not being able to read or calculate, but they're pushing them through high school. You see, you have a degree, a high school diploma, and you come to college, and you can't keep up. Let's drop our buckets where we are. If you're sitting in a synagogue, or you're sitting in a temple or a church, push the pastors, the leaders are probably overwhelmed. But get those committees together and say, what about the kids dying outside the sanctuary doors? We're doing everything for the children who are in our unit, in our web, in our arms. But around the corner, children don't have books. Tim, do you have books?
We have plenty of books, but we also need more books.
Do you have computers?
Yes, we do, but we need more computers.
There is such a disparity between what suburban schools have and urban schools have, because it's tied to property taxes. And as long as school budgets are tied to property taxes, in depressed neighborhoods, in unstable neighborhoods, you're not going to have the support you need. This is something that faith institutions need to stand up and say, this is unfair. And the America that we are building is not the America we want to live in. It really isn't the America we want to live in. I don't know if you know Andrew Hacker's words. I love him, a Jewish scholar. 2 nations, separate and unequal. But what he says is what's happening in Black America, it's only a matter of time before it happens in all America. And we can see that that's the truth. We can fix this and have fun doing it. We really can. It's a lot of fun mentoring together. Group mentoring, when you all, like the 100 Black men of America, they all go together, pick up the guys, or they go to where the guys are, and then you go out and see a game or have a drink together or have dinner together. And it makes you feel so good that you have really given of yourself to change a young, vulnerable life. Thank you for that question. It was a critical one.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Cleveland. You talked earlier about, excuse me, gun violence. And we see more than our share here in Cleveland, and we've seen more than our share here around the country recently. I was wondering what you felt about it and what you would suggest be done. Thurgood Marshall gave a speech one day, and I heard him speak, and he was talking about the Constitution for a well-run militia. Everybody in the militia should have a gun. Not everybody should have a gun.
You just answered it. And that's it. You know, that's what the First Amendment really is talking about. A militia needs to have guns. And we're not talking about everybody having a gun in his or her home to defend, oneself. But it makes no sense. We see that guns, anybody, look at what we're seeing on the nightly news. Every few days, we're reading about a deranged person who walked into a gun shop, put their ID down, and was able to buy a weapon that they then turned and used against people and just snuffed out lives. Now, I don't know, how the NRA can stand strong. And I'm not trying to talk about the NRA. I'm talking about y'all. We're the silent majority. We have to stand up, and we have to speak up, and we have to say we want that to end. People should have all kinds of background checks and emotional wellness checks before they're able to buy a gun. I was in Texas with some folks, and they get up in the morning and they strap their guns on their hips. And they go in the supermarket. You could see people with guns. There's a lot of gun violence in that city as well. But I want to say that guns, we're talking about African American males who are killing one another, and young black males who are killing themselves. And now what's happening? They're also killing their colleagues and their schoolmates. So what happens on one side of town is going to happen on the other side of town. They're not going to put down guns. The kids in our community are not going to put down guns until they have jobs. Jobs. No one who is in school and trying to advance his or her life. There's no one who has hope for the future who's walking around packing and trying to rob somebody. You're trying to get home to study or on your job so you can get there on time. It's people who are hopeless, who are coming out of incarceration, whom our sanctuaries, our faith communities are not welcoming in. In our communities, you go into the black community and see who owns everything in our communities. We don't own anything in our communities. Everybody else owns everything. This is the work of our faith institutions to say we need a shoemaker, we need the laundromat, we need the tax office, we should have the little restaurants, we should have the bank, we should have also the little supermarkets. We should own those things, just like Jewish people do in their communities and Greek people do in their communities and Latinos do in their communities. So I'm saying to y'all, I'm saying to my black sisters and brothers, African Americans all, what are y'all doing in your churches? It's not enough to praise God. It's not enough to know the songs. It's not enough to say, oh, pastor, he's a good pastor. And we're going to raise $25,000 for pastor's 25th anniversary when the kids around the corner are dying. It's not right. It's not right. So we have to, this is where we come. We're people of faith. I know this. Hands that serve are holier than lips that pray. We have to roll up our sleeves and do the work. Roll up our sleeves. There were some people over here who wanted to ask. I saw a hand go up. Oh, you're there already. Okay.
Hello, Miss Taylor again. My name is Dante Gresham. I'm a upcoming junior at Morehouse College. Yeah. And I also want to say thank you for coming to Cleveland and also serving as a trailblazer to help mentor students as they go on and grow. And also, I would also like to say thank you to everybody who, I guess, who are mentoring and started mentoring. But I wanted to ask, just like my mentor is Mr. Timothy Roberts, who started the HBCU preparatory school. And then also, I would like to say Mr. Cottrell Kinney, who also instilled into me while I was in the BRIC program, the different values and things, and made me value life even more as I was in high school. But I would like to also ask you, what makes you wake up every day, even when a child is resistant to accept help? What can you give to these mentors in here, or what can you say to them to keep them going?
That's such a great question. And you know what it has to do with, thank you, that children don't trust. Here's what we have found, because we've done the research before trying to insert ourselves. Oh yeah, they're not going to be here long because the funding's going to run out and they're going to be gone. So they're not trusting adults. They're ashamed of their parents very often, because very often their parents are incarcerated or, just not healthy. And so they're protective of their parents and ashamed at once. One young man said, what do I want? I just don't want to walk in my parents' footsteps. He's in college. I tell you, I raise my hand and I say, thank you, Lord. But for the grace of God, you all would be here talking about me. But I had Babs and Lawrence, two people who said, we don't care who's doing what, you're not going. This is in the middle of a heroin epidemic. Trust me, I went to Catholic school. Those nuns were not enough. I needed a father who would have whipped my behind, and he did. Today he would be arrested. You know what I mean? For the beatings I got. Thank you, Lawrence Taylor. This girl needed him, needed those. And so what we have to do is not give up on our children. When we first stepped into Harlan High, those kids weren't feeling us at all. In the assemblies, they were all slumped down, not listening, laughing, joking, continuing to love them. Wellness mentoring circles, they come into their classrooms, 30 of them, single gender. They would separate boys and girls at different tables. Nobody sat up front. Guess what? We had to shut down the mentoring program for 3 weeks because the weather was so inclement, so bad in Chicago. They had to make up those days they missed in school. The youngsters were angry that they didn't see their mentors. And now we're saying we don't have the money to continue the program during the summer, but we have to keep the facilitators, the psychologists, trained so that we can begin again for year 2 in September. Do you know the youngsters say, no, we want wellness mentoring circles during the summer. The mentors are saying, we're volunteering anyway, and we're going to keep going. And so are the facilitators. So what I'm saying is that when a young one is resistant, it's only because they've been hurt so often. When your parents disappoint you, you're not going to trust other adults immediately. Don't give up. I just say every day, could have been me. Please, if it were me, don't give up on me. So just don't give up. And there are some youngsters, maybe it's not a good fit, and we're not talking about one-to-one. What we do is we recruit mentors and deploy them to where they're needed. Big brothers, big sisters, boys and girls clubs, wherever you need mentors. Please, go to Cleveland Cares. They can help. You need to be able to do background checks, even though the 100 Black Men of America, they're going to be doing them, and also some training, but you may want to train them in your own protocols for your program, right? So we can send them to you. Don't overwhelm them because they're just really getting restarted. And this is a committed group, and we have to get this right and then replicate it through the city. So that's one of the things we do. And because of the gross numbers, I learned this at the White House where the head of Big Brothers Big Sisters said, there were 3 million young people being mentored, and there are, how many? 15 million waiting. I'm like, oh, there's no plan for the 15 million? We're going to create some wellness mentoring circles and group mentoring, and we're going to get this right. So I thank you for your questions, and if I can have a minute at the end, there's something I want to read. Can I just take it now? Let me leave you with this. This is something that I love. It's by Ezra Khan, written at the turn of the century. He said, I asked for strength, and God gave me difficulties to make me strong. I asked for wisdom, and God gave me problems to learn how to solve. I asked for prosperity, and God gave me a brain and brawn to work. I asked for courage, and God gave me dangers to overcome. I asked for love, and God gave me people to help. I asked for favors, and God gave me opportunities. I received nothing I wanted, and I received everything I needed. Thank you.
Today at the City Club, we've been listening to a Friday Forum with Susan Taylor, CEO, National Cares Mentoring Movement, and former editor-in-chief of Essence Magazine. I know I am different today, and I've learned a lot, and I am leaving this room a different person. Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This forum is now adjourned.